So my thing is the Bank of International Settlements, all these other things. What about actually seeing like an example of a product instead of talking about a product? Did we have anything? We do. Here's a screenshot. You may be wondering what the heck is this all about. I'm going to get into it. So MNB Student Safe App. Look what it says here. What is the reference? Well, I might be able to stretch it out more. Nope, that's the biggest. But it states here 3 main factors motivated the MNB, which is the Magyar Nemzet Bank. What a name, right? 3 main factors motivated this for running a CBDC pilot focusing on real users. Obviously, you see the Bank of International Settlements, but this one is from Hungary. They're talking about the CBDC pilot designed for children. Interesting. It says a modern digital solution for raising financial awareness of families and students. Now, guys, I'm not necessarily saying I'm for this or anything like that. I'm just also recognizing the big picture. I'm obviously not, fans of CBDCs, so don't take it like I'm rooting for all this stuff. But I also am not going to sit on the sideline like I did last time with BTC, and just allow other people to become extremely wealthy because of a narrative. Okay, so it is what it is. Look at this. It says number 2, piloting retail CBDC with real users, adults and children, to gain insights on operating a customer-facing system. Number 3, CBDC is so much more than issuing a new form of money. Full range of tasks related to the activity must be understood and implemented. And here's an example: establishing internal governance, bylaws, monitoring tools, accounting, and reconciliation process. Come out of the frame for this for a brief moment. Why am I mentioning any of this stuff? You have to keep in mind what Gilbert Verdine was mentioning. He understands just as much as the next guy like you and me and so on. It's not that, he doesn't recognize, and especially, what's his name, Martin Hargreaves, recognized that there's a bad narrative of CBDCs, like the devil and all this stuff. But he has made the point that you have to kind of, and he didn't use this term, but I think this is an example. You have to look at the good and bad. I mean, it's like firearms, just to a sense. I am pro, Second Amendment. Always have been, always will be. There's going to be people who are going to agree or disagree with me on that. But one of the things is mentioned is, like, if you guys ever seen the movie Shane, right? That was my dad's all-time favorite Western. Shout out to the late great my dad and Alan Ladd. 1953, I think it was. Shane, considered by many the greatest Western ever made. There's a certain quote in that movie that really, really hits home. Shane is interviewed by, or not interviewed, but had a conversation with what's his name, Joe Starr's wife, and she's kind of like anti-firearm, if you will, and explained the reason for it. And he mentions to her, right? I think her name is Miriam. He says, a gun, as in a firearm, could be used as a tool for either good and bad. Kind of look at this whole thing of CBDCs, and again, I understand people will be like, "Oh, I'm done with you, Max." Maybe they unsubscribe. I have every right to share my point of view. This whole notion that me, Channing, and everybody else, because we're content creators, we are not allowed to have freedom of thought. That's ridiculous in itself too. So my key takeaway is a tool. Should we look at CBDCs in that light as well? Gilbert Verdine has made this point to be used for either good or bad, right? And some people feel as though it's like, well, it's going to be mainly for bad. Hear a different narrative. I'm not promoting CBDCs, but I'm also sharing with you a different point of view. If we're invested in this stuff, we can't just sweep it under the rug. We can't just say, to heck with this, move on, and not talk about it. We are talking about it.
It's important.
Yeah, it is important. So I always mention to people, if you are open-minded, this is why you pay attention to some of the stuff. I had a guy yesterday give me flack. I'm not going to mention who he is because it's okay. He gave me flack saying, I should just be pro BSV and that's it, nothing else, because XLM is connected to the whole things of Ukraine and all this stuff. Again, where do we pick where does it end? Or poison and so on. Like, somebody mentioned, actually, it was one of my best friends, Mike Wool. He pointed out, QNT partnership with Nestle. Nestle did some things that was really bad in regards to like the poisoning of something. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I looked more into it and I was like,
and
no.
slavery in Africa as well. But again,
On and on and on. Right. What about movies that we go see? You know,
exactly.
what about the shoes that we buy? What about the electricity we use? I mean, it's just on. What are we
It
supposed
goes
to do?
on
Just
and on.
we're going to
There,
become like Aborigines and just live out and go move to
exactly.
Australia and just like or become Amish. I mean, it's just
There's good and bad in
there is
every system.
no, yeah, I mean, every like
Period.
there's things that we consume. Oh, I'm drinking bottled water. Maybe the manufacturing plant that made this BPA free bottled water did something that was really really bad. I mean, we have to live. We still have to go about our lives and so on. I'm not justifying anything bad, but again, I want to point out some things here. So have an open mind. Look at this for a second and let me know what you think. Let's full screen this. So what we see here, and why I want to point this out, is the establishment of eternal governors, is the bylaws, is the monitoring tools, right? It's a digital student safe app 2.0. Decision steps in designing a pilot CBDC system. Look at this. Is it feasible on traditional infrastructure? Is the use of blockchain DLT justified? Again, back to why I mentioned this whole thing of justification to you guys, right? Look at this. Are anonymous transactions enable account-based or token-based operations? What is the framework? You always talk about regulatory framework. What actors are involved in the operation? What functions does the central banks perform? What form of money does it replace, cash or bank money? This other part, monetary policy nature, deliberately, effectively, neutral, or flexible. Again, deliberately would be the whole thing, guys, of what? Force CBDCs down your throat. You know, at least they're addressing it. They understand at least there's people talking about this because there's a narrative, right? So, again, some of these examples coming back more into this whole outline, you have, for instance, who is able to transact with it? Like, is it accessible? What is the basic purpose of this? Like, what's the fundamental goal? And the whole point is this is something to do what? Is to get the adults and even children involved with the whole thing of understanding maybe the bigger picture. Now, some people are going to say, and I get it, this is where they set their own narrative to control the population. We can agree to disagree. You want to chime in? Sorry.
No, I was just laughing because, of course, but in a sense, yes, but in a sense, no. I think it's actually brilliant because it's the children. The children is the future. So if you get them on the system, they'll do it for life. It's almost like I'm gonna say this, and then I'll let you get to what you're doing. Apple. If you think back, like maybe 13, 14 years, Android was actually beating Apple in innovation. Apple was actually known as the old person's phone. So what did Apple do? They reinvented themselves. You got these lime greens, the pinks, the blues, or the hot yellow, all these color-friendly phones for who? The kids. And then you put it inside the hands of all their favorite Nickelodeon characters. So that next Christmas, what do all the kids want? The cool what? New iPhone, which then brought Apple back into the forefront and captured a whole generation of new consumers. Brilliant.
Yeah, it is
And
brilliant, and it's if we talk about mass adoption, it's not getting to the guys. Here's the point, and Channing made a really great point. You don't get to mass adoption and say, well, we got to scale up, and then after that happens, say, okay, we're done.
exactly.
No, you have to educate the next generation, right?
Absolutely.
And think about this, right? We talk about Web3, we talk about history, for instance. So understand this. This is a little history for you. Some of you guys already know this. Before 1865, okay, so 1865 Civil War, for instance. Before
Mhm.
1865, you had literally physical silver and gold tokens and so on, right?
Yep.
Actual coins, and that was used for the trade of currencies and so on. 1865
Absolutely.
came in, introduced what, guys? Cash,
Banknote.
right? Cash. And then, of course, from there, it's like, well, what's backed by cash? Gold. We understand the history of that. For instance, was it 1933?
April.
temporarily pulling it away. Yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say that's when Executive Order 6105 was signed, 1933, April 5th. And that was the executive order. If you had so much gold in your personal possession, had to turn it in and get the cash in equivalency and all of that stuff from the government. Yeah, but that happened right in the midst of
Good
the.
job, brother. You know your history. That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you guys, Nixon, 1971. So I mean, the point
The
is,
gold.
right, literally pulled away, right? Like we're off the gold standard and so on. I'm gonna do another thing in the future. It's gonna take some time, but I'm gonna tie in some research I found on another particular station. It's like a mainstream station. They have a video outline, and some people have mentioned the whole thing, like Bitcoin. I'm not talking about BTC, by the way. All right, I don't want to make too controversial, but they were talking about Bitcoin. Um, like if we're going to this new era, how the heck do we have anything that is going to be backed by anything? And when I was connecting everything, in regards to even some of the things Michael Saylor was saying, and it made me kind of open my eyes to this whole thing of, even Trump recently mentioned the whole thing of, he was saying that, Bitcoin is an actual currency that will have a lot of use. And I think he said something like also like a tech side. And I was like, there's no way he's referring to like BTC. But anyway, teach his own. My key takeaway was, all right, so in the old days, if you have, you know, um, cash was backed by gold, then entering into Web3, we have to have something in which, if it is Michael Saylor referring to BTC and so on, or whatever the case be, you have to have something that is a new system to back what we're entering into. If
Something that's
assets are tokenized, right? If assets are tokenized, you know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
Then you also have to have a new form of a standard. I know we mentioned a lot about standards. I'm
But
also
it's the
talking
truth
about,
though.
yeah,
Go ahead.
right. So what I'm thinking is, like, okay, this guy makes a very good outline. I'll probably try to share it with you guys, not exactly, not necessarily by tomorrow, but I'll try to piece together. It's a lot of education. So anyway, where I'm going with this is understanding that it's not getting to the point. And by the way, thank you so much to all you guys. We have a new record, 548, biggest show we ever had. You guys rock. All right. Most of the people here tonight are from X. I mean, this is amazing. 500 viewers on X exactly, 48 on YouTube. Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. Thank you so much. But anyways, what I'm going to state is, so yes, you can't scale up and say we need to get to mass adoption and just pull the plug and not educate
Yeah.
everybody about the next right monetary
Yep.
shift. If I'm a kid and I remember this, right? I remember before debit cards and so on. My parents, grandparents, and so on, they deal everything with cash, right? Everything with
Yes.
cash. And
Absolutely.
then back in the 90s, you're starting to say like, oh, my parents have this card, and they're using it, the introduction of debit cards. So it's our parents introducing that model to us, right? Well, I'm using this. It's a lot more effective. I don't have to carry like a bunch of dimes and quarters and so on in my, my mom in her purse, my dad, whatever in his
Absolutely.
pocket, whatever. Then we go to this for the digital transformation. So this whole narrative that is bad for Hungary to shove this down the throats of the children and so on. Again, back to the reasons why they're doing it. They're at least addressing the issue, saying, look, it's not that we're force feeding these kids.
They're
We're going to
planning
show.
their future.
Yeah, and I get there's some people. There's going to be people. I get going to be like, yes, they are force feeding. This is doom and gloom and so on. Hey, let's not make it all about that tonight. Let's go ahead and full screen this. Let's get into what we have because there's a reason why we share this with you. So MNB, the Central Bank of Hungary, CBDC framework and achievements. Why is this all important? Well, it gives you an example finally of what is actually the product through an app. It's one thing to say that you build on the over ledger and do all these things, and you have, like, for instance, over ledger, King APIs to allow all this to work. But can we actually see a product? Well, there's an example, right? There's a particular app. And getting into the next frame, why I want to share this with you. Were you aware of this? Most people weren't. And that's okay. I'm not trying to act like I'm Mr. Smarty Pants. No, but I do thank people like Quant for the research. So we have this example of a joint team of MNB in the Budapest Technology University who got into the final round, I guess you could say, of the Roslin. Yes, that's right, Project Roslin Tech Sprint. You know how like, we always talked about Bank of International Settlements, Bank of England, maybe tired of hearing that. Who are the other players that are also part of it? Well, here's one. This is a bank that's obviously in Hungary. Left side says you have Project Roslin, obviously the BIS, Bank of England. The aim of the project was to explore what, guys? Retail use cases. With the collaboration of private sector and the central bank could promote competition, create added value for the end users. On the right, CBDC Central Bank API, Application Program Interface. What do you think that interface is? It's the over ledger. We already have proof of it through what? Go ahead, Shannon. You know it.
You say, oh, through you talking about through the Roslin paperwork, all of that. We
Yeah,
know that
well, I
all.
mean, right. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
they selected Quant to get the job.
absolutely.
This is another example of it's not just the BIS, not just Bank of England. You have this particular API through Overledger to allow it to happen through Quant Network. And as you can see, CBDC Tech Sprint. And look how old this is. You guys wonder why I mentioned the historical thing? This is, for instance, I can't even pronounce this. Moiguitum.
1782.
We're talking about standards, guys. Remember how we mentioned all these monetary shifts? So even an institution as old as from 1782 is on board with this. Don't you
Wow.
understand how profound that is? So
Absolutely.
my point is, and let's come back into the frame, is understanding, guys, the bigger picture. When we talk about a monetary shift, the biggest in history, can we give you guys examples of just that history? Boom, there you go. That's why we mentioned some of this stuff to give you an idea of it's not, hey, we reached mass adoption, we're done, we don't have to do no more work. No. Hungary understands they have to teach the next generation to keep that flow, right? That flow of this, just, keep using the product, keep using the service. You don't get to Web 3 and then come back to Web 2. That would be counterproductive. So DLT-based car lease supporting schemes, like it says, DLT-based energy bill supporting scheme, those two combined with each other. For the final demo, 12 teams were selected, including one of the MMB BME teams. So, I mean, like what? I mean, I didn't realize some of the stuff tied to cars, but it says other finals were teams, and let's blow this up. Here's your aha moment, because Channing covered this on his video earlier.
Absolutely.
You know where I'm going with this. Other teams from big international technology companies like what? Amazon, guys, Revolut, Thales Group, and Viana. All right, got to make sure I pronounce that right, not the wrong way. I mean, anyway, yeah, I know that's a bad joke, but
I would
anyway,
say, and sitting right there, people also realize the Bank of England is right there because they were actually founded in 1694. So you got two long-term players right there alone, ensuring that they're around for the next 400 or 500 years of existence because they're piggybacking off of the next wave of technology.
yeah, absolutely. So there's that source for you guys from the MMB. If you want to look it up, MMB has been active in several cross-border CBDC projects. Why is that? Because they want to test the next generation.
Absolutely.
And when we talk also about central banks, there's the central bank of central banks, which is obviously this right here,
Yes.
the BIS. And so Hungary wants to be part of the whole gravy train too. I mean, it's a strategic alliance with other central banks because they're part of a fraternity of central banks. But the BIS is the head honcho of the bunch, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a
All right.
coalition.
Yeah, it is. This next part, let's blow this up as well. A little bit more about this. Let's full screen this. You see, for example, MNB has also joined Project mBridge. Back to the whole thing of why mBridge was significant. Chang's done a great job at covering Project mBridge. I've covered it a few times as well. But back in March of 2023, look who's all present.
Yep.
Guys, here it is. Did you watch from the beginning? A lot of you guys didn't. Some of you guys did. That's why I referenced. Let me come back
Hong
to
Kong.
it. Exactly. I don't have it. I closed that one out.
Okay.
Yes. Right.
But
It's okay. But it's the
yeah.
Hong Kong, and specifically Hong Kong Monetary Authority. Does the BIS have a stamp there too? Yes, they do. What do we see? Hong Kong Center. They have an innovation hub at the Hong Kong Center. BIS is all over like a fat kid on cake because they do have a fat kid on cake.
Literally.
It's
I'm
Augustine
not talking about
Carstens, and
I'm
I
not
should have
talking
mentioned.
about Parsons.
Yeah, I know I gotta be careful with that because like Quant
I
Papa
know.
ended up getting banned
Yeah.
from that. You guys think that's a coincidence? I don't know. Maybe it is, but that was weird timing. He never got banned before. I'm just saying. Anyway, so check this out. And I shouldn't make fun of Augustine Carstens. I need to lose weight myself. All right, so Bank of Thailand. Look at it. It's just again, it's a strategic play, guys. This is like Southeast Asia, right? You have Digital Currency Institute, People's Bank of China, Bank of the United Arab Emirates, right? We know that, when it comes to like Dubai and whatnot, they sit at the table.
Mm-hmm.
What about mBridge's founding members? Project Specialty's tailored multi-CBDC platform based on DLT. A pivot involving real corporate transactions centered around international trade was conducted on the platform among participating central banks. Yeah, it's called, guys, they met behind closed doors. When everybody was like, oh, there's nothing going on. Oh, I don't see the price moving. Understand,
Yep.
you not understand the bigger picture. These guys don't care if they, a bunch of people on crypto Twitter, because it was Twitter at the time. Oh, they're saying this about us. They could give two whats because their focus is not on retail. Their focus is on the institutional side. Now, I get it. You saw that, that whole thing of this particular bank from Hungary, and it references, retail, CBDCs and so on. But again, it's who they met with. They didn't meet with the retail side of things. They met with the BIS. They met with all these guys, Hong Kong Monetary Authority, and so on. But the connector was who? Quant Network. Project Specialist, a pivot involving real corporate transactions centered around international trade, conducted on a platform among participating central banks. Again, this one from Hungary is a participating central bank. Selected commercial banks and their customers in 4 jurisdictions. Access to test interface, obviously Project mBridge. Again, Southeast Asia. So my thing for you guys is this, and we'll come back into the frame here in a second. And we're not done with this, but I just want to hear what Channing has to think about it as well. Don't get it ever twisted. Action, reaction. And we talk about what happened with JASMY, of direct reaction of, wow, there is this law that was passed, and it was a bill, and it became an act because an act is a law. Supply and demand. Who's the one's first regulatory compliant in Japan? It was JASMY. Boom, JASMY took off. Then we had another major pump, which sent JASMY to new support over 2 cents. Why is that? Hong Kong. Strategic position to do what? To invest into Web3, to invest into, for example, this whole thing of semiconductors, manufacturing plants in Japan, preparing for the future. Because let's face it, we don't even know if Taiwan's going to be around anymore. I hate to say that. You know what I mean? They're going to get swallowed up by the, Red China, right? The People's Republic of China. And if you want another history lesson for you guys, look it up for yourself. You ever wonder why Taiwan is called a Republic of China? You ever wonder why they have that old flag? Look more into it. You'd be surprised. There's 2 Chinas. Taiwan, the Republic of China, Red China, People's Republic of China, mainland China. So those heavily invested in some of this stuff. We know that Taiwan is the king of semiconductors and so on. Action, reaction. Reaction is what Japan is doing. What's the other action? JASMY pumped to almost up to 3 cents, 0.227, right? Right off of the news, it's a catalyst. I get it, guys. Right off of the news, bill becoming a law. Why show all this? Because Quant strategically planned itself, put the foundation down. Exactly. Lay that down, that foundation. There's also strategic. You think Gilbert Verdi, by the way, well, no fact. That guy is like an uber elite hacker, by the way. Anyway, I won't get more into that. But Gilbert Verdian, right, got this done. He realized that we have to not just embrace things like the BIS and what's going on in Europe and so on for digital pounds, digital euros, and so on. Who or what area of the world is embracing crypto? And we're not crypto, but embracing blockchain and DLT. It's that area of the world.
Absolutely.
Action, reaction, Hong Kong, and so on. That's why we show you all this stuff.
Man.
Yeah, it's big.
And not to mention, I know that on that screenshot it says sandbox, but don't forget, this past January, mBridge went live. The AUE sent, I believe it was either Thailand or China, but it went live. So it's no longer a sandbox. It is now up, live, and moving. And I'm more than sure it's been more than one transaction since.
Some of you guys ask what cold storage solution I use. I use this, and it is the Decent wallet. All right. I also, of course, have a ledger like this. All right. You can get a discount basically from going into the affiliate link, which is in all the live video descriptions and recorded and so on. And for the yahoos that are out there, they're like, this is just a shield. And, we'll fix point this out. And it's a great point. Were you aware that you don't necessarily get a discount link just going straight to the site? No, you actually have to go through a platform like this. So how cool is that? I don't think anybody's complaining about that. But anyway, use the link, get a discount. There's another one here. If you're the type of person you want to get one for you and your significant other, you can get two of them. They actually have another promotion, which is this, and I think this is cool. You can get an all-in-one card wallet plus backup card package. Interesting. I thought that was cool. And again, one of the main key things I like about the Decent wallet is not having to do the red tape of jumping through all the hoops for XDC and the custom folder. I mean, Edward Vincent can vouch on that. Some of you guys can too as well in regards to ledger. That was a pain in the butt. You don't have that problem. You literally open up your phone, it's on your app, track everything that's going on, right? And saying goes, not your keys, not your crypto. You know the drill. Check it all out though if you wish to do so. It is truly the cold storage solution that I use. For the most part, there's still some on ledger that, I kind of split it up on it and so on. So it is what it is. But if I have preference over one, I'm going with this one. A lot easier to use and so on. And some people, even to this day, still ask me which one to use.